Hello and welcome to the Gridiron Glory Playoff Special. I'm Donovan Varney alongside Josh Herner and Andrew Bowlby tonight. And playoff seeding has been finalized within each region, so we're bringing you the latest on Divisions 3 through 7 and some previews of games to come as well. We'll start with Division 3, Region 11 though. The first 4 teams get a bye this year, and for this region, it'll be Bishop Watterson, Licking Valley, Steubenville, and Tri-Valley.
Yeah, the Scotties ended their season on a 5-game winning streak, winning them the MVL Big, and they're going to be looking to carry that momentum into the first game out of the bye.
And this year, they'll do their best to not fall into the same trap they did last year after losing in the second round. They were up 21-0 in that game before falling to Dover by 2.
All right, so first up, we've got 9th seeded Sheridan taking on 8th seed Granville.
Well, Sheridan lost the MVL title game in double overtime, but they beat New Lex in Week 10, missed the playoffs last year, back in it, and Paul Culver III, he's going to be looking to get a win.
Yeah, and as for their opponent, Granville beat Tri-Valley 30-21, so they have common opponent theory in their favor, but Granville has dropped a couple games this year. They lost to the Washington Blue Lions 31-16 in a pretty big upset.
And next up, we've got Hamilton Township taking on Independence. Bowlby, what do you got on these guys?
Yeah, so Hamilton Township, they got a share of the MSL after Bloom Carroll lost in Week 10, and they're going to have their hands full in this first game. Gabriel Onbar of Independence, a 2,000-yard rushing back. He's a really good player, going to be a challenge for the Hamilton Township Rangers to face.
And the Athens Bulldogs look to bounce back after their loss to NY against a pretty solid Buckeye Valley team.
Yeah, that NY loss definitely stings a little bit for Athens. 2 undefeated teams. NY got the better of Athens, and Athens is 20-point underdogs this week as well. They've struggled a little bit under head coach Nathan White in the playoffs with a 1-3 record. Athens going to look to reclaim that form, though, that they had to start the season when they started 9-0.
All right, and how about Bloom Carroll? The 7th seed will face Lyndon McKinley in the first round. And Josh, this Bulldogs team is no stranger to some playoff success.
Not at all, Donovan. They had 3 straight state semi-appearances from 2022 to 2020. They've been very successful under head coach Jeremy McKinney with an 8-3 record. This year, though, is a little different for this Bloom Carroll team. Their defense is very stout. They're going to rely on Kyson Klein in the running game, but it's a little bit different from the explosive offenses they've had in years past.
Okay, so this Bulldog team still want to share the MSL Cardinal, but their Week 10 loss definitely hurt a little bit, especially going into the playoffs. You want to get that Week 10 win.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a bit of a down at the end of the season to lose in the game that you're favored in, but at the same time, that kind of gives you motivation going into the playoffs, and that will certainly make this opening game interesting.
Yeah, it does hurt a little bit to not get the bye. You know, you don't get that week off, but still, maybe that makes you come out and get more prepared this week.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's stick in Division 3, and we'll take a look at Region 12 now. Your top 4 seeds go as follows: London, Tip City, Hamilton, and then Jackson. The Ironmen are coming off of their 5th straight FAC title win. Hard to stop that kind of dominance come playoff time.
Yeah, and they'll be facing either Miami Trace or Hillsborough, depending on who wins that one. A rematch at the top 2 teams of the FAC could be on the horizon.
Yeah, and it's certainly hard to beat a team twice in the same season.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see what this Jackson team could do in the playoffs. We know they have experience behind guys like Bodie Wolford and Ryan Simons.
Me too, but let's take a look at some of these other teams. Chillicothe grabbed a 9 seed, and they're set to take on McNicholas this week. This is their first playoff appearance since 2022, and it's under first-year head coach TJ Carper, who's got some playoff experience with other teams, and they could be pretty solid this year.
Yeah, they're going to need to get through a stout McNick defense. We've talked about Carte Ligon all season long, but this Archbishop McNicholas defense has held opponents to under 30 points for 24 straight games.
All right, and Hillsborough gets the last seed in Region 12, and they'll be facing a familiar face in the FAC.
Yeah, they will, and they lost the first meeting against Miami Trace 49-6 earlier in the season, but this is a team that can run the football. 7 players on the roster with over 100 rushing yards. They are at a negative point differential this season, and they've never won a playoff game in their school history.
Yeah, this Hillsborough team, like Bowlby mentioned, they're going to need to run the ball well. That's their bread and butter.
All right, and moving on to the Miami Trace Panthers now. They just missed the mark on a first-round bye, but they will be playing with a chip on their shoulder after losing to FAC again to Jackson. Lost in the first round last year, but the X factor this year is going to be that guy in the backfield, Julian Baker. He is a dog.
Yeah, in the first meeting, rushed for 331 yards as a team. That is obviously going to be a key in this game coming up.
So no matter what happens, we got 2 FAC teams that will be playing each other in the second round this year. That could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, a conference matchup in the regular season, always exciting. You get it in the playoffs, that much better, especially when it would be a chance to get revenge.
Yeah, especially the matchup that's been the de facto FAC championship for the last year. You know, if Miami Trace is able to win round 1 alongside, you know, that Jackson getting that bye, that'll be an interesting contest.
Yeah. All right, well, Region 12 is just packed with teams from the FAC, like we said. It'll be interesting to see if any of them can make it out.
Yeah, Region 11 is packed with competition too, with Bishop Watterson looking for another state championship.
Yeah, really, any of these teams could knock them off for the top spot this year, though.
Yep, Division 3 is filled to the brim with teams in our coverage area, but in both regions, they will have to overcome 2 of Ohio's toughest squads. Reporter Charlie Evenfeld joins us to break it down.
Thanks, Donovan. Even with Division III having the most teams remaining in any of our divisions, it's rough sledding against the reigning Division III champion. But past the tough sledding in 11, there is a brighter outlook in Region 12, despite heavy hitters like London and Tip City at the top. Jackson, Miami-Trace, Chillicothe, and Hillsborough have a better path to the state semis compared to last year. Jackson and Chillicothe moved from Region 11 last year, and after Chillicothe missed the postseason and Jackson battled for an 8 seed in a loaded region that year. This could be an opportunity for the Ironmen to get back to the regional semifinals with a win next week. Like I said before, Region 11 is top-heavy, and Bishop Watterson has hardly skipped a beat in their title defense. Only one team gets a bye in our coverage, Tri-Valley, and with wins this week, Athens, Sheridan, Hamilton Township, and Bloom Carroll will have uphill battles in their second round. For Athens, a potential rematch with the team that eliminated them last year, Steubenville. For Bloom, they would face the same Licking Valley squad that sent them home last year. Hamilton Township would have to go to Dresden and face the Scotties, and Sheridan would be on the road for a second week in a row to face Watterson. Well, sometimes it's better to deal with the devil you know, but I don't know if these teams would agree.
Yeah, I hear you with that one. We'll be back to check in on more in just a little bit. Thanks, Charlie. Well, lots to unpack out of Division III this year. Lots of talent, but it truly could fall to any of these teams. But it's time to move over to D4 to see what's going on over there. Two of our GG teams are getting first-round byes out of Region 15 this year, Unioto and New Lexington. New Lex got the first seed, while Unioto, who is the only undefeated team in this region, gets the fourth.
Yeah, Indian Valley and Jonathan Alder get the other two byes as the 2 and 3 seeds in this year, but lots on the line for the Shermans this season. Only one playoff win in school history, and that was during the 2020 COVID season.
Yeah, Coach Matt Hoops and his squad will have to face the winner of East versus Canton South game in the next round.
Okay, taking a look at some of the other teams in this region, we've got Fairfield Union with the 8 seed.
Yeah, Fairfield Union has won 6 of their last 8 coming into the playoffs, so a lot of confidence there, and their only playoff win in school history back in 2001.
Yeah, and this team really likes to run the ball, over 350 rushing yards in Week 9 against the man at Clear Creek.
And next, with the 10 seed out of the MVO Big, are the Philo Electrics. Their seeding got hurt a little bit last week after losing to Morgan, but they're going to be looking for their first playoff win since 2020.
And they're going to rely on Slade Sprankle and Jack Lincecum. That is the duo in the backfield. They've lost 3 of 4 coming into the playoffs, so there's maybe a bit of a confidence issue, but it's a clean slate, chance to maybe bounce back. And Dirk Lincecum, their head coach, he has all 5 of the playoff wins in Philo school history.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Moving on, our last team out of 15 are the Circleville Tigers with the 7 seed, and they're coming off a big win against Bloom Carroll last week.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a huge way to finish your regular season, upsetting Bloom Carroll in Week 10, and they've got a coach who knows how to win in the playoffs. Jay Sherritt, first year with Circleville, 44 career wins in the playoffs and 2 state titles. Also, Circleville, in a season, they've had 7 wins, the most since 2013.
Okay, let's circle back to Unioto here. Typically a very good team in the regular season, but they just can't seem to get over that hump come playoff time. Maybe this is the year that they get their second playoff win.
Well, it's not going to be easy, right? I
No.
mean, we just showed you that region. You think about all of the different teams, New Lex, Indian Valley, Jonathan Older, all very challenging, but maybe this is the year Matt Hoops can finally get it done.
Yeah, this Unioto team has been good all season long, and the senior heavies. Senior heavy is the name of the game for this team. Rely on those guys up front and rely on your group of seniors.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so our next region is Division 4, Region 16, and we only have one team in that one.
Yeah, and that team would be the Washington Blue Lions. They grabbed the 8th seed after a 4th place finish in the FAC. They're slated to play New Richmond in round 1, and they're favored to win by 7, according to Drew Pastor.
Yeah, they're 1-3 against New Richmond all time, but the last time they played was back in 2000.
Yeah, and this is an interesting season for Washington. They beat Granville in Week 4, one of the biggest upsets in the entire state this season, and Sam Pfeiffer over 2,600 yards this season and 33 touchdowns. They can score, and that's obviously going to give you a chance in the playoffs.
Yeah, so let's talk about that scoring, right? Their offense, it's pretty impressive, and they definitely can let it rip downfield.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby. I didn't mean to interrupt
Go
right
ahead,
there.
Josh.
But, I got to get excited to talk about a guy like Aiden Osborne.
Yeah.
We talked about Sam Fife for a little bit. His main man in the passing game, though, Aiden Osborne, just over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns on the season. It's those two that have really been the spearhead of this Washington offense.
Yep. All right, so continuing in Division 4, it has been home to some of the biggest surprises for our Gridiron squads this year, and it might produce some more in the next few weeks. Charlie Ehlenfeld is back with more.
Yeah, Donovan, while it's easy to look at a potential rematch for New Lexington and Indian Valley in the regional final, it might be even better across the board. Starting with two MSL teams, both Fairfield Union and Circleville have a single playoff win in school history, and they're searching for their first home playoff wins in school history as well. For the Tigers, it would also be their first playoff win since 2007 and their first under new head coach Jay Sheridan. For the Falcons, it would be their first under head coach Andy Clark and an opportunity for redemption after last year's heartbreaker at home against Waverly. But they aren't the only squads looking to exercise some playoff demons. Matt Hoops and Unioto hope to earn their first non-COVID playoff win. You heard about that earlier, and while he's had great squads before, the Shermans are on a heater this year. Hoops' squad is the best offense in school history by a country mile, and they're allowing just 3 points per game. And here's a look at the storylines, and we didn't forget about Philo and Washington Courthouse. The Blue Lions get their 4th playoff appearance under Chuck Williamson, the most of any coach in school history, and Philo will try to break a 3-game postseason skid this week. Well, New Lex and Indian Valley will dominate the headlines for good reason, but every game should be thrilling in Division 4.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how things shake up. Thanks, Charlie. All right, closing the door in Division 4 and moving on to Division 5 now. Lots to unpack out of Region 19 this year.
Yeah, teams won't have to worry or prepare for Ironton, though, this year. The defending state champs are banned from the postseason.
Yeah, but there are a lot of other teams in this region that could make a run this year, most notably the #1 seeded Wheelersburg Pirates.
Yeah, here's a look at the full bracket for Region 19. Like Bobby mentioned, Wheelersburg claims the top spot. Columbus Academy has the 2 seed. NY takes the 3 seed, and Barnesville gets the 4th.
2 10-0 teams out of Region 19 this year between Wheelersburg and Nelsonville York. The Pirates will play the winner of Morgan and Colgrove, while NY will play the winner of Afrocentric and Union Local.
Yeah, this region has some heavy hitters at the top. Taking them down will be tough, but the other 8 seeds, they should not be taken lightly.
Yeah, speaking of those seeds, let's start with the 9 seed Morgan Raiders.
Yeah, well, so Morgan has 3 losses this season. New Lex, Sheridan, Tri-Valley. Those are arguably the best 3 teams in the MVL, but they were a 15-point underdog in Week 10. Went to Philo, got a win to get into the playoffs, and this is their first season with more than 6 wins since 2000. Definitely a tough team.
Yeah, and you look for guys like Hayden and Tanner Bankies to take over in playoff games like this. Morgan's relied on them all season long. Look for them to get an expanded workload in the playoffs.
Yep, and grabbing the 8th seed and playing Morgan will be Colgrove. They've had a very impressive year, going 8-2 in the regular season. They got their first OVC title under 7th-year head coach Jay Lucas, so pretty impressive there.
Yeah, Donovan, the guy who's led their attack so far this season has been Caden Murphy. Over 1,800 yards on the ground, 24 total touchdowns. It's been a very impressive year for this Colgrove squad. See if they could carry that momentum in the playoffs.
And snagging the last seed in Region 19 are the Amanda Clear Creek Aces.
Yeah, the Aces started this season 2-4, but they've won 3 of their last 4 coming into the playoffs. They had a scoregami win in Week 10, 60-46. First time we've ever seen that score. They're 0-3 all-time against Portsmouth, including the first round of the playoffs last year, but this is a dangerous team.
Okay, and the 5th seed out of the OVC goes to the Portsmouth Trojans.
Yeah, it was a rocky start to OVC play this year when they lost to Galley Academy and Rock Hill as well, but they ended on a 4-game winning streak. Look for guys like Marquez Locklear and Fernando Poxis Jr. to lead a very run-heavy Trojans offense.
And the Pioneers grabbed the 10 seed this year after a solid 8-2 season in the SVC.
Yeah, they had a really good year, and the 10 seed, a little bit low for what this team could accomplish. 2nd place only behind Unioto in the SVC, and a player to watch in this matchup, Bryce Johnson, nearly 1,400 rushing yards this season and 21 touchdowns. They trace very good going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and set to face the Pioneers, and that Pioneers rushing attack will be the 7th seed Valley.
Yeah, what a year it's been for the Indians. You know, they haven't had much playoff success under head coach Nolan Crabtree, but they get a home game this year. Look for them to use that momentum they built from the end of the regular season and rely on a rushing attack led by Anthony Aaron. Listen, it's been a good year for this team. See if they can carry that momentum into next week.
Okay, well, with Ironton being out of the playoff picture this year, that means Wheelersburg has got to be the clear favorite this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, Wheelersburg also won that head-to-head in the regular season, so even if Ironton's in this, they're still probably the favorite, but now all of a sudden the door's open. I think a lot of teams are probably saying, maybe we have a chance to win this region this year.
Yeah, but you got to talk about this tough defense for Wheelersburg. They haven't cracked all season long. You know, they've been stout. They're always stout under head coach Rob Woodward.
Yeah, Woodward has got them right, so it's going to be nice to see what they can do in the playoffs. But, all right, let's go check in with our expert, Charlie. Heading into Week 9, it seemed like we'd get a rematch between Wheelersburg and Ironton in the regional final. Safe to say a lot has changed in a week.
Donovan, after an instant classic in Week 6, Region 19 looked to be a coin flip between these squads. But the region is now anybody's game. Before Ironton was disqualified from the postseason, they were the 1 seed, and their historic rival Portsmouth was out of the playoffs. Down the line, Barnesville found themselves on the outside of the top 4 byes, and Colgrove narrowly missed a home game. Now the region looks like this, highlighted by Portsmouth going from the 13th to the 5th seed because Ironton was forced to forfeit their final game because they used an ineligible player. Barnesville gets a bye, Cole Grove now gets a home game, and most teams, excluding Morgan and Amanda Clear Creek, move up. As for the games, Portsmouth is leaping back into the playoff picture and setting up a rematch from last year's game with Amanda Clear Creek. The Trojans took that one 35-16 last year. There are a few new faces in this region this time around. Morgan and Valley both did not crack the postseason last year, and Afrocentric and Cole Grove claimed home playoff spots after hitting the road last year. 19 was defined by Bird's Cinderella run from the 14th seed to the regional finals last year, but this time they enter as heavy favorites, 10-0, number 1 seed after clearing a brutal regular season slate. Well, Donovan, it should be a treat to see who will challenge the Pirates for this region.
Yeah, we'll see who's up to the task. Thanks, Charlie. Well, it's always fun to see who comes out on top of that tight Region 19, but we got to head over to Division 6 now. Let's start with the highly competitive Region 23.
Yeah, well, with Region 23, there are 5 teams with 9 wins, and every team that made the playoffs in this region has at least 7 wins.
And it's really mainly gone through powerhouse Coldwater in the past few years, but there is a new and familiar favorite this season.
Now for a full look, Centerburg was able to take the 1 seed in the region, but Fort Fry earned the number 2 spot.
And they are the favorites to win the region according to Drew Pastor after a very strong regular season.
Yeah, but don't sleep on the 3 and 4 seeds in this region. West Jeff has a high-powered offense led by Austin Bisher, and Mount Gilead, they've been solid all year long.
Okay, and over in Reedsville, the Eagles saved their playoff hopes with a big win over Southern last week.
Yeah, and they've had success under new head coach Jason Jackson. He's been there a couple years. They have a 4-3 record under him, including that special run to the regional finals made in 2023. And they're led offensively by Ethan Edwards. They're very good up front on both sides of the ball as well.
And grabbing the 7th seed in playing Caldwell is going to be Grove City Christian.
Yeah, GCC won back-to-back conference titles this season, and this is a really good team that can score the ball. They're going to be a threat all year, but their opponent is very tough. Caldwell, they won Region 27 in 2023, so recent success in the playoffs going to be a challenge for GCC.
All right, so towards the top of this region is Fort Fry. Guys, how are the Cadets going to be able to get back on top in this region?
Well, they've been very close for a couple of years, right? Like they had 8 straight wins coming into the playoffs, and they have a bye, which helps them get healthy and stay perfectly ready. They got the talent to do it.
Yeah, we all know how good they've been under head coach Eric Huck. He always wins, always wins in the regular season. You got to think, maybe this is the time. Coldwater hasn't been as good this year. Anna hasn't been as good this year. This might be the weakest this region will look in a long time. Maybe this is the Cadets' year.
Yeah, especially like you said, under Coach Huck, they're definitely going to take advantage of that opportunity. But let's move on and check on Region 24. Only 2 teams that we cover in 24. That'll be Rock Hill and Portsmouth West. The Senators make the playoffs this year after going 5-5.
Yeah, them and Rock Hill both playing some tough teams in conference this season.
Yeah, and this is definitely a top-heavy region this year. Village, Northeastern Mechanicsburg, and St. Bernard and Elmwood have a combined 4 losses between them.
Okay, so this P West team is absolutely no stranger to the playoffs. This is their 6th straight appearance. Josh, tell me a little bit more about them.
Yeah, Portsmouth West, they finished the season 4-2, and they're mainly led by their guy, Anthony Bishop, just under 1,200 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns on the season. It's really been a weird year for them, though. They're out of conference. They struggled a little bit. They played well in SOC play, but they had a really tough loss to Northwest. We'll have to see what the Senators team could do in week 1 of the playoffs.
Now over to Rock Hill. They will host Dayton Christian.
Yeah, Rock Hill comes into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. They've dropped a couple of tough games to Chesapeake and Portsmouth, but this is a team that is absolutely capable. Their opponent in this game, Dayton Christian, they have 2 players who have thrown for 1,000 yards in the air this year. So a double quarterback system, a little bit interesting that Rock Hill will have to face in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, never easy to set up against 2 quarterbacks, especially in the film room. But thinking ahead, so we got Drew Pastor has both Rock Hill and Portsmouth favored in their matchups. What do they need to do to advance here?
Well, I think the biggest thing in playoff football is play a clean game, and you can probably get through if you come through and execute your plays down there.
Yeah, you got to rely on your playmakers as well. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time moments.
That's right. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but there could be some heavy hitters coming out of Region 24 this year.
Yeah, there definitely could be. This one is really up for the taking this year.
Yeah, I used to see teams like Coldwater getting that bye, but they just missed it this year.
Between Regions 23 and 24, we might see some of our teams make a run out of Division 6. And speaking of D6, it has the fewest GG teams, but it might have one of our toughest. There's also a few teams hoping to break the postseason drought. Charlie's back to take a look at those squads.
Yeah, there are just 5 squads in our coverage in the Division 6 postseason, but the Fort Fry Cadets are one of the strongest contenders across the division. With a legacy as storied as Eric Huck, it's hard to improve on his track record, but he has cleared the impossible hurdle this year. The 2025 Cadets have the best point differential in his tenure, the best defense, and an offense putting up over 35 points per game. And they have a chance to get revenge on teams that have ended deep cadet runs in the past. West Jefferson, a team that sent Fort Fry home in both the regional final in 2021 and the regional semis in 2023. And Grandview Heights, the squad that sent them home last year in a 27-0 rout in the semis. But this division has battles on the way for round 1, And like Region 15, there is one team looking to end a streak of futility. Grove City Christian has 0 playoff wins since 2009, and they fell at home last year against New Cumberstown after an injury knocked out quarterback Douglas Housley in that match. Now they get a chance at home again against Caldwell. Rock Hill, after a skid to end the year, could win back-to-back postseason games for the first time in school history against Dayton Christian. Eastern Reedsville and Portsmouth West will both seek their second road playoff wins in school history.
Yeah, a road win could be just what those teams need to make a run in the playoffs. Thanks, Charlie. We've reached our final division, and let's start with Region 27. It's competitive at the top, and there are a few dark horses further down in that region, too.
Yeah, this region has a lot of talent. It's really going to be a toss-up of who gets to the state Final Four.
Yeah, the top 4 seeds will get much-needed buys, but teams playing in the first round will all compete for the region.
Hillsdale has the 1 seed in Region 27, followed by 3 straight 7-4-0 teams in Waterford, Fisher Catholic, and Sims Valley.
And you see some of the depth in these first-round matchups. Bishop Rosecrans and Conotton Valley is a first-round toss-up. South Gallia is the region's 5 seed and will host just their second ever home playoff game, welcoming in a Trimble team that hasn't lost in the first round since 2011.
Yeah, and last year's Region 27 winner, Danville, sits at the 11 seed and will face Steubenville Central Catholic. The final matchup of the first round in this region is between Strasburg Franklin and Lucas.
All right, guys, let's start with the 8 and 9 matchup between Bishop Rosecrans and Conotton Valley.
Yeah, this is a very interesting game because these are 2 teams who play very similar brands of football. Both of their quarterbacks have thrown for over 2,000 yards this year and exactly 31 touchdowns. Bishop Rosecrans' Hayden Purdue has 13 picks compared to Conotton Valley's Caden Leggett with just 9. But they all have, or both teams have 4 receivers who have 300 plus receiving yards. So very similar teams as they meet in the first round.
And Trimble gets the 12 seed in Region 27, and they're back in the playoffs for the 3rd straight season.
Yeah, they're no stranger to the playoffs either, especially under head coach Phil Fairs, but this could be his last playoff matchup. He's had a long streak of success going 23-18, including 2 state runner-up appearances. They're going to rely on their defense, and they're going to need to play very well this week, especially against a very high-powered South Gallia offense.
Yeah, Phil Fairs is definitely going to want to go out on a high note because the Tomcats will be facing that 5 seed South Gallia on the road, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and that is a high-flying offense for South Gallia. 438 points this season. That is a school record. They have a really good rush attack, and they're going to be looking to get just their 2nd ever playoff win in school history. So a lot on the line for South Gallia with a great offense.
And looking at this region, it's going to be a fight, okay? 7 teams have at least 7 wins. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and playoffs in sports are always chances for some upsets. Danville, the 11 seed, they won this region last year. Like, they could go on a run. They're a sneaky good team.
Yeah, but don't count out the top dogs, though. You got Waterford, like you mentioned, Fisher Catholic, Sims Valley, and South Gallia, all dangerous offenses. Waterford's been stout all year long. Sims Valley, very good all season long. South Gallia, high-flying offense. That South Gallia Sims game was a 2-point game just to end the regular season. It'll be a very interesting region, and you can't count out Danville, Bobby, like you mentioned.
Yeah, seeing an 11 seed make a run could be fun, but we also have to look at D7 Region 28. That is led by 4-time defending state champions Marion Local.
St. Henry, Cincinnati Country Day, and Eastern make up the other 3 teams with buys.
The only other 7-4-0 team in 28 is Notre Dame, who will be hosting Cedarville in the first round. Ansonia hosts New Bremen. Cincinnati College Prep will bring in Fort Recovery, and Lehman Catholic hosting Minster rounds out Region 28.
For Notre Dame, they are looking to win a playoff game in their 4th consecutive season.
Yeah, and they had a really good regular season. 8 wins. Their 2 losses came to the teams ahead of them in their conference. And look, they've had playoff wins in 3 straight years. Chance to do it in 4.
Yeah, we talked about how high-flying the offenses are in the SOC one. This offense is led by Luke Cassidy and Bryce McGraw, 2 very tough offensive players to play against.
Yeah, they, like you said, they're hosting a playoff game for the 3rd straight season. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it. They lost to Eastern and Sims Valley, 2 teams that were ahead of them in their conference and are high seeds in their respective regions, and another dangerous offense that can put up points, which is just what you need in the playoffs.
Yeah, we haven't really touched on Eastern either. Eric Manley Jr., we talked about that state record. Him and his guy Boston Webb, that Week 9 performance was completely incredible against the South Gallia team that puts up some points. Can't count out Eric Manley Jr., and you got to think, maybe this is the year for Marion Local.
It could be. Like we've said, we watched some of their game. We're keeping an eye on them, and they were getting some close games in there. But definitely some big-time players coming out of D7 this year. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Eric Manley, like we just said. He's been tearing it up.
Oh, no doubt. That Eastern offense has been electric all year long, and we all know they can handle business in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that bye will be nice so they can prepare for what could be a long playoff run.
Well, after a lot of realignment from last season, some of these teams have found themselves in the same regions as the reigning state runner-up and winners in Division 7. Charlie has a look at what our SEO teams could be facing.
Donovan, it won't be easy. In Region 27, Hillsdale has smashed their way through a brutal schedule to claim the 1 seed. And all that's on the other side, the longest winning streak in the United States. The SEO controls the top of Region 27 with 3 of the 4 byes going to area squads: Waterford, Sims Valley, and Fisher Catholic. After their win Saturday and some help down the line, South Gallia could be in line for a rematch in the second round with a Sims Valley squad they just beat by 2 points in Week 10. And after narrowly missing the 16-team playoffs last year, Bishop Rosecrans is in the thick of the field as the 9 seed, leading the pack Hillsdale, a squad that won 14 games last year. And after their incredible run, they met Marion Local, who beat them 74-0 in the championship game. Marion Local enters the playoffs on a 74-game winning streak, but things have been dicey this year. The Flyers escaped 2 games by a single point this year and only beat another Region 28 squad, St. Henry, by 7. It could open the door for squads like Beaver Eastern and Notre Dame, the 4 and 6 seeds respectively. Beaver carries a streak of their own, the 4th longest regular season win streak in Ohio. While the top of the region is certainly stacked, this could be the time for a squad to give the Flyers a run for their money.
Yeah, they certainly could. Thanks for the good work, Charlie. Okay, all of the brackets have been covered, and we're getting ready for a lot of good games over the next few weeks. Any games you guys circling on your, on your stats and stuff in particular?
Yeah, I got one, Donovan. I'm going to start in Region 19, and it's the 5v12 matchup. Portsmouth got a huge bump from rival Ironton to get not only a postseason appearance, but to host a playoff game as well. The Trojans had only a 26% chance to make it in Week 6, and they were on the bubble entering the final week of play, but they gained a ton of points from that Ironton forfeit win. They'll now host Amanda Clear Creek in a playoff matchup from last season that the Trojans won, but Pasteur has the Aces favored this year. Now, they might not be favored like I mentioned, but I do like the Trojans in round 1.
Not a bad pick, and they'll have to stop Tommy Stein in that Aces backfield, though.
Yeah, and for me, I'm going to be watching D4 Region 15. It is one of the most competitive regions, and each of the top 4 seeds could go on to the state Final Four. You've got a 9-1 New Lex team, a 9-0 Indian Valley team at the top of this region who met in the regional semifinal last year. They both take care of business. We're going to see them go head-to-head for a chance to win the region, and don't forget, you've got a really good Alder team and an undefeated Unioto team. Also a pair of other 9-win teams in this region, so it is going to be a phenomenal fight for 15.
Yeah, well, my pick is coming out of the same region yours did, Josh. Hear me out. I'm taking Valley over Zane Trace out of Region 19. Week 9, they dominated in a must-win against Grandview Heights, and I think they could take the Pioneers. Right now, Pasteur has Valley losing by 11, but the combo backfield of Anthony Aaron and Gabe McNeil could be dangerous. They didn't have McNeil for much of last year, so having him healthy for this year's playoff run will be big. Their defense is going to have to find an answer for this guy, Bryce Johnson, though, if they really want to stand a chance. All right, well, that was my pick. I know we talked about it earlier. I hope you guys are okay with me taking Valley over him in this one. All right?
It's a good pick, and you know what? This is what we play for, right? We're at the playoffs. It's Week 11. It's going to be a great ride.
Yeah, there could be upsets all around. Not surprised you went with an upset there, Donovan.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all we got for this one. Thanks for coming along with us for this playoff special, and make sure you check out our socials for content all throughout the week. But as we get going, with our show and everything. But for Andrew Bolby and Josh Herner, I'm Donovan Varney. We'll see you guys right back here on Friday because there's nothing better than Friday nights in Gridiron Glory.